And away we go. It's just me at the moment. Not sure if Eric and or Risk are wanting to join or if they're going to join. However, it must go on. And that's okay. Alright, let's see what else is there to rant about today. This'll be exciting. Jolly good, jolly day. A fire at a Russian industrial plant kills 11 and injures 130. On August 15th, 2025, a fire in a factory in Lesnoy Shilovsky district triggered an explosion around 10:30 a.m., according to Russian reports. The regional operations headquarters said safety violations caused the blast, leading to the arrest of the company's CEO and founder. According to the Ministry of Emergency Situations, over 360 specialists and 90 units of equipment were deployed, with over 100 employees evacuated after the blast. On Monday, Ryazan authorities declared a day of mourning, urged cancellation of entertainment events, and introduced emergency mode across the Shilovsky district. The Russian Investigation Committee has launched a criminal probe into the incident, the second fatal explosion since the October 2021 blast that claimed 17 lives. Firstly, rest in peace to those 11 people who are unfortunately no longer with us. I do send my condolences to the friends and family of those 11 people, and even people would say, and even argue, that the Russian people are evil and they're in support of the war. You're entitled to those opinions. No one should ever convince you otherwise. However, the lives of individuals have been lost, and regarding the explosion itself, now, I can't just say, do better, lads. Put some safety guardrails. Try and evaluate what went wrong and stuff. Because that's not enough. It's not enough to say, just to look at the situation at hand, and then just come up with something that prevents situations like that from happening again. Will be other factors that are beyond someone's control. However, it's just dark. It's just very dark. Hearing stories about people being alive, whether through natural disasters, extreme weather, explosions. What's wrong with this world? They're trying to bring doom and gloom. They're trying to say people are no longer alive anymore because of this and that. Now, I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna tell people not to report on stories like this. There just have to be more stories besides that. Like, there are other issues where things are positive, like rescuing wild domesticated puppies or kittens, or perhaps someone is getting married, or someone's in a relationship, or someone got engaged. Stories like that. Actually, I prefer those stories than whatever that is. However, the world works in many ways, and sometimes there's always a cost. Not financially, but physically. If there's a way to prevent that or reduce the impacts, I'll allow it. However, lives will be lost, and someone will be paying the price for that, and it won't be the person that done it. Colorado confirms show papillomavirus behind Fort Collins horned rabbits. Wow, that's quite a name. Rabbits in Fort Collins, Colorado are showing alarming black tentacle-like growths caused by cottontail rabbit papillomavirus, CRPV. This viral condition spreads primarily through parasites like fleas and ticks, and has appeared in multiple U.S. regions, including recent sightings in Colorado. Wildlife officials advise residents to avoid contact or handling, report sightings to authorities, and give infected rabbits space to prevent spreading the virus. The virus causes wart-like tumors that can hinder rabbits feeding and lead to starvation. While no cure exists and domestic rabbits risk more severe complications, These findings stress the importance of public awareness and monitoring to manage the virus's impact on wild rabbits population and protect pets from exposure. I've I've heard so much about this, like the tentacle-like tumors around the rabbit's head, all across social media. It doesn't matter what platform. I've seen at least one video of it on any platform, social media platform you could possibly get your information from. 20, 226, at least 226 sources are reporting this. So it's everyone is talking about it. Everyone's going to know about it. I want to say there's a way to find a cure against this. How long will that take? It won't be as short as getting the vaccines for COVID, that's for sure. But surely and gradually, I'm not going to say things will get better, but things can't get any worse. At least in this regard. Well, whatever happens to the rabbits, shall they rest in peace. Human-caused climate change made a recent Nordic heatwave about 2 degrees Celsius hotter, putting a strain on healthcare, ecosystems, and indigenous Sami reindeer herders in the region. Finland, Norway, and Sweden experienced unusually hot weather above 30 degrees Celsius for 2 weeks in late July, leading to issues like fainting, wildfires, algae blooms, and reindeer seeking shade in towns. The researchers stated that rapid transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy is the only way to slow this warming, as the region's infrastructure and aging population are ill-equipped for such extreme temperatures. Now, I am all for renewable energy, and I'm all for ensuring that citizens of all ages don't suffer any physical pain or suffering from such heat waves, because they're no laughing matter. It is painful, mostly uncomfortable, but still painful. However, to say that switching to renewable energies from fossil fuels to power our homes, business buildings, and so on, even if people say that is the way to go, it won't be enough, no matter what anyone does, to combat climate change. It is inevitable. Again, I'm not going to argue with renewable energy, so long as it is efficient and sustainable, and it actually produces as much energy people say it produces, and even much more so than other fuel sources. However, to say that renewable energies is the answer to climate change, no, it's not. And even it is, it's not enough. It will never be enough. And even though climate change is beyond human perception, or even beyond our own control, you can't, if you're going to tell people not to eat this, do that as a way, as also as a solution to combat against climate change, no, you won't. You're not going to convince at least 2/3 of the world to not go out, not to eat, not to consume specific types of food, and you're certainly not going to convince people not to use vehicles. And it does not matter if those vehicles are diesel, gasoline, or even electric. You cannot tell people to stay at home, don't go out unless absolutely necessary, and not to eat specific food products. Because even if there is an impact, which has been during 2020 when we were all in lockdown for at least 2 years, by the time people realize, okay, we did it, we can continue back to our normal lives. Also, living to our normal lives literally back to the same point we were at before even going ahead with the initiative of not going out, not eating specific food products, and not using vehicles that are either gasoline powered or diesel, and dare I say, electric vehicles. Although electric vehicles, as sustainable people say they are, where do you think the power for electric cars come from? Power plants, including those that run on fossil fuel. There won't be enough fossil fuel left in this world, so there has to be another solution on how we generate electricity. Yeah, I had so much to say on that. And if people do want to stay at home, and not eat specific food products that people say is harmful to the environment, they can do that. I'm not going to convince people not to do anything. I'm just saying what people say is the answer to climate change. It's not going to make much of a difference until everyone around the world are on board with the idea of doing so as a way to reduce the impact people and experts are saying is having on the planet. And even when news reports say that the effects of climate change has been reversed, people say, "Yay, let's go back to our normal lives." They go back to normal lives, and then we're back to square one. That's literally the point I'm making. No matter how hard we try to moderate or try and make shifts and changes into our day-to-day life, there are limitations. And even with those limitations, and if there are people willing to put up with that sacrifice, there are a few people that will not back down. Those people will not want to go along with such procedures. That I know for sure. China imposes 75.8% tariff on Canadian canola seed ahead of harvest. On Tuesday, China's Ministry of Commerce announced a provisional 75.8 duty on Canadian canola seed, effective Thursday amid trade tensions. Last September, Chinese authorities began probing Canadian canola shipments, and the Commerce Ministry said it found Ottawa's imports caused substantial damage in an anti-dumping investigation launched last year. Alongside, Australian canola cash prices slipped $10 to $740 per ton. I don't know what the T is, so I think it might be ton. As ICE November canola futures dropped 6.5% to a 4-month low 4-month low recently due to tariffs. Industry representatives cautioned farmers would face new pressure, and Rick White warned if a solution is not found swiftly, the impact will be quickly felt on our farms and in our rural communities, noting a $1 per bushel drop. With the Chinese market closed, Chris Davison noted the absence of China's demand signal, which could impact the over $40 billion Canadian canola industry, and support alternatives like Australia this year. Like I will say here is what I've said with the US trade tariffs. If at any point big countries are going to say, okay, we're going to put tariffs on this, and we're going to put tariffs on that, every time you have to have an alternative. Now, it may not be necessary for countries to have an alternative, but if your plan A does not go well, or ties are cut from plan A, what's your plan B? And if plan B doesn't go well, what's your plan C? I will say this. I do hope Canada and Australia do find a way of negotiating something, and I also do hope that Canada and Australia strengthen not just their diplomatic ties, but their tradal ties as well. And trade between the two countries would actually improve over time. Because, well, countries have to trade with someone to get whatever goods or service that is needed for their countries. And if China isn't the answer, some other country has to be the answer. Or the country in question could just produce their own produce and sell that off to other countries. But what if that country in question also says, "Oh, we're going to put trade tariffs, so you have to pay this much amount extra to get the stuff that you want from us." It's just an endless cycle of countries improving on their exports or their exporting game, making some kind of profit or revenue out of those produce they give to other countries, and to put extra tariffs on those produce because given the high demand for what little supply they have, such prices will likely increase. And if those prices increase, and countries cannot handle such high costs, What is the more affordable alternative for that? Sooner or later, countries across the globe no longer will they ever rely on China or even the US for their primary trade agreements. They will turn to other nations near them, nearby, or in the same continent that isn't China or US to get the goods that they want. Because over time, leaders will start to realize that we don't need these countries to do trade with. We have each other. And if we support each other and encourage each other to produce our own stuff and give it to each other, all is great with the world. And I would like that, but even I will have to say that long term there has to be something more sustainable beyond relying on other countries for trade. It's not you can't just rely on one. There has to be multiple countries. And even with multiple countries getting different produce, like being versatile and diverse with what countries are importing from other nations, they still have to produce something of their own, if possible, as a way to reduce costs on importing the produce to begin with. Trade agreements are very difficult and very complicated. That's just me. Ancient DNA reveals West African ancestry in early medieval England. Archaeologists analyzed the DNA of two unrelated individuals buried in 7th century cemeteries on the south coast of England, revealing they both had recent West African ancestors, likely grandparents. While most individuals buried at the cemeteries had Northern European or Western British and Irish ancestry, one person at each site had a recent ancestor from West Africa based on their autosomal DNA. The findings represent the first genetic evidence of a direct connection between Britain and Africa in the 7th century, shedding new light on the cosmopolitan nature of early medieval England. I'm sorry, no, I'm not sure if I can take this seriously. I mean, I'll give them credit for finding something, but I need to hear more on this because I mean, I will say I will say that there have been people of African descent coming over to the United Kingdom as early as the 19th century. I mean, maybe not that early, but if it was the earliest, that would make more sense. Into the 20th century, a lot more people of African descent would likely come over to the United Kingdom, and if they have passed away and they were buried at such cemeteries all across South England, that would make so much sense to me. That would make a lot more sense. But Western African ancestry in the 7th century. Wow. Well, I be damned. I want to believe this, but I think there's today. The more you know, you know? Governments turn to TikTokers to advise on cosmetic surgery abroad. Earlier this month, the United Kingdom government collaborated with TikTok influencers to raise awareness about the dangers associated with seeking cosmetic treatments outside the country. The move follows concerns over life-altering injuries from unsafe overseas surgeries and aims to reduce costly NHS treatment of complications. Influencers like Midwife Marley and Doc Tally will produce videos urging thorough research, consulting UK doctors, and avoiding procedure package holidays. Stephen Doty, a minister at the Foreign Office, emphasized the importance of thoroughly investigating and understanding the potential dangers before seeking medical procedures in other countries. New regulations will restrict high-risk procedures to qualified health workers and require licenses for Botox and fillers, aiming to protect patients and ease NHS burden. I have a lot to say on this, but let's start with the positives. It's great there is encouragement and effort to educate other people about cosmetic surgery and the risks that comes from that. That's great. However, having the UK government involved and saying something along the lines of always rely, always reach out to, always consult with UK doctors regarding cosmetic surgeries or other the kinds of fillers. I'm not saying it's propaganda, but how can it not be? I mean, there's going to be people that's going to say something like that. They're going to say this is propaganda. Why is the UK government asking influencers about the risks of cosmetic surgery abroad and encourage them to consult UK doctors? Again, I'm all for it. I'm all for raising awareness about the dangers of cosmetic surgery and the risks that comes with it. However, hearing the name of the UK government involved, I feel that's going to turn some people off. I mean, it's great intentions, but it has questionable execution. That's all I have to say. I'm in the middle with this. I'm grateful for raising awareness, although I'm concerned with who's involved in raising the awareness. Because there will be people that are calling it propaganda, telling people don't go abroad to do whatever, rely on our doctors in the country. They know what's best. And you know what? There's a few doctors in the UK that do pretty good jobs. However, you should all, I think, in general, consulting with any doctor, although it's important to listen to their advice, if you have any questions that may concern you, please ask, please ask your doctor those questions. It does not matter what the question is. You should know exactly, you should know exactly what is going on with the treatment you'll be given and what the doc and anything regarding what the doctor advises. Because it's important you know exactly what you're in for, and what the treatment is involved. So that's all I have to say. Former US ambassador to Ukraine, Trump-Putin summit, a win for Putin. Of course you would say that. US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a 2.5-hour closed-door meeting on August 15th, 2025, at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, Alaska. The meeting followed ongoing conflict in Ukraine, with Russian leadership viewing Ukraine's independence as a mistake they aim to reverse, and tensions over Russia's demands for Kiev. Trump welcomed Putin with full ceremonial honors, including a flyover by US bombers and cordial handshakes, while officials characterized the summit as mainly a listening exercise, with no consensus reached on Ukraine. Trump said he wanted a ceasefire and threatened severe consequences if Putin resisted, adding he would call NATO and President Zelensky to discuss the meeting. While at least 7 civilians died in Ukraine from missile strikes. The meeting left no resolution on Ukraine's future, suggesting continued conflict, while Putin proposed a future meeting in Moscow, which Trump called an interesting one he might consider. Just put the fries in the bag, bro. I am sick and tired of all of these talks, and nothing gets done. It just has to stop. It's getting old. If there's nothing, if nothing comes out of these summits or meetings, what's the point having those meetings to begin with? Because if there is nothing coming out of these meetings, it's just a way of getting press attention, give someone to talk about, and not pay attention to all the other stuff that's going on in the world. That's just me. Everyone has their own conclusions and opinions. At this point, regardless of what side someone is on and what goes on between the Ukraine and Russian border, I think we all want this to stop. There comes to a point when people from all ends and all fronts, they want to stop the fighting, but they can't stop the fighting because both sides don't see a reason to end the fighting. And if there is a reason to stop the fighting, they're going to say, if we do that, then this is going to happen. And that's the reason why we're in this mess to begin with. There's always going to be reasons people are going to bring up to justify continuing violence and war efforts and military actions against other military fronts. Personally, it's just insanity. I don't know about anyone else, but for me, this war between Ukraine and Russia is insanity. It has to stop. And I'll keep saying it every time I keep hearing about it. No one wants to hear about it, but, well, what other options is there? You could just turn off the news altogether. But even then, someone is going to bring it up. Someone will bring it up. Researchers name new Oligocene whale Janchuitus Janchucatus duladi. What a name that is. Paleontologists confirmed a new whale species named Janchuitus duladi this week, based on a 25-million-year-old fossil found in Victoria, Australia. Ross Dollard, a school principal and fossil hunter, discovered the partial skull at Janjuk Beach in 2019, marking the first dontid found in Australia since 2006. The partial skull, containing teeth and ear bones, belonged to a juvenile whale approximately 3 meters in length that existed between 34 and 23 million years ago. During the Oligocene epoch, Gentrophatus doladi had tennis ball-sized eyes and a shark-like snout, and Dollard described his discovery as literally the greatest 24 hours of my life. This discovery provides new insights into early whale evolution and helps scientists study ancient adaptations to warmer oceans relevant to current climate change. I already said enough about climate change, so I'll just talk about the new whale species. Wow, 34 to 23 million years ago. Wow, that's a very long time. And looking at the picture of it, goodness me, look at the size of those teeth. Wow, that's scary. Imagine that thing is still alive today. Boy, if it was alive today, sharks would be the least of Australians' worries. Is this ancient whale species that is no longer alive anymore? If it was to come back, it's over. It's over for anyone going to the beach in Australia. Who knows the size of that thing can do to people? I hope it's not carnivorous, given the worry, but if not, then okay, fair enough. But man, the size of that thing is huge! Its mouth is literally over a shark's side fins. It could just take a bite of that fin right now, take a snap out of it, and yeah, bye bye shark. Don't know what else to do. Man, that the size of the thing is amazing. And if you do Google Jancitus Doladi, you will find pictures of it. At least as of this recording release, by the time this recording is released, you should be able to Google that and you'll find pictures on that. Chinese firm plans world's first humanoid pregnancy robot. Oh boy. A Chinese tech firm is racing to deliver what could be the world's first gestation robot. The idea from Kaiwa Technology, based in Guangzhou, involves a humanoid designed with an artificial womb embedded in its abdomen, intended to carry a fetus through 10 months of gestation and deliver a baby, according to Chinese media outlets. Slated for debut by 2026 and expected to sell for under 100,000 yuan, around 13,900 US dollars, the robot aims to offer a pregnancy alternative for those who wish to avoid the burdens of human gestation. The announcement has triggered intense public discourse, from ethical unease to hopeful possibilities for the infertile. Recently, Chinese researchers introduced Gear, the world's first AI-powered breeding robot, capable of autonomous cruising and cross-pollination to cut costs, shorten cycles, and boost efficiency. The bold vision of a humanoid surrogate pregnancy robot was presented at the 2025 World Robots Conference in Beijing by Zhang Keifeng, founder of Kaiwa Technology and affiliated with Nanyang Technological University, according to ECNS. So, this new pregnancy robot, well, they're not wrong about the potential ethical unease and the hopeful possibilities for the infertile. I couldn't have said that better myself. Of course there'll be ethical concerns regarding how humans reproduce, but of course, for those women who are not able to get pregnant, maybe that's possibly the way forward. However, just because such technology exists where having a child is at least convenient beyond the fact that you don't have to go through the burdens or the symptoms or any effects that women had to go through whilst being pregnant, that such technology should only be available to those who are unable to give birth. And if there are women who can be pregnant and give birth to children, why can't they have why why can't they make love to the man of their dreams, carry their potential newborn in their belly for a couple months, and then out goes the baby, and then yeah, that's the start of a new happy family. Now, of course, if Eric was here, he would say the same thing. He will certainly and obviously, unarguably, express concerns about robots being not robots being the future, but the fact there are robots that can reproduce and give birth to children. Yeah, that's a genuine concern for present day ethics. Even today ethics, which are nothing like the ethics of yesteryear or yesterdecade, it's still a genuine concern. I'm all for technological advancements, but not to the point it replaces everything that we do to our day-to-day life, and especially takes over what we have been doing for thousands of years, ever since humans as we know today have even existed. What we're doing now has been going just fine for the last thousands of years. So what's the need to have a change in how we do any of that stuff that involves technology? Other than concerns of not being able to do what you want to do and having that technology as a way to substitute, fair enough. But if people can do the things that they can do without having technology, why have what's the need for the technology if you can do it yourself? And this goes for anything. So yeah, the world is advancing so dang fast. And even to a faster rate where even if we do want to stop, there's no going back. Oh, there's no going back whatsoever. Metal Legends, Megadeth announced final album and farewell tour after 40 years. Dave Mustaine, the frontman and founder of Megadeth, announced that the band's next album and tour will be their last after 40 years. A memoir by Mustaine will also be published next year, while the first single from Megadeth's 17th and final album will be released in the fall. Megadeth, formed in 1983, is regarded as one of the most significant and influential thrash metal bands, alongside Metallica, Slayer, and Anthrax. Wow, that's quite the career. It's great to see they're wanting to settle down now. They've whatever career they had, which I have no knowledge of, surely it has been a good one and influential at that. Because surely having to perform for that long, surely there's got to be some kind of passionate fan base that they have. They've been going strong for who knows how long they've been performing for. So with their world tours, they're they're likely to do a lot better than the previous tours the years before, because it's the last time you'll see them perform. So enjoy it while it still lasts, because you never know when it will come to an end. However, you never know what's going to happen until it's too late, and people are no longer with us on this planet. It's going to happen to us at some point. But when it will happen exactly is anyone's guess, and is out of our hands. It's the least of our expectations. Some workers would be excluded from student loan forgiveness program for illegal activity. Oh dear. Teachers, social workers, nurses, and other public employees could lose access to a popular federal student loan cancellation program if the Trump administration determines their employer engages in activities with a substantial illegal purpose. Under a sweeping proposal unveiled Friday, the Education Department's plan would reshape the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which cancels federal student debts for government and qualifying non-profit workers after 10 years of payments. The proposal targets certain non-profit and government bodies, particularly those working with immigrants and transgender youth, raising fears it could be used as a political weapon. Under the plan, the Education Secretary would have final authority to decide if an organization should be excluded. Activities deemed illegal include trafficking, chemical castration of children, defined as hormone therapy or puberty blocking medication for transgender youth, illegal immigration, and support for foreign terrorist groups. President Donald Trump ordered the charges in March, accusing PSLF of sending taxpayer funds to activist organizations he considers a threat to national security. The Education Department predicts fewer than 10 employees would be barred annually and says it does not expect a significant reduction in the share of borrowers receiving forgiveness. Still, the agency acknowledges the impact would not be evenly felt. Schools, universities, health care providers, social work agencies, and legal service organizations are among those most likely to face eligibility challenges. I'm not surprised. He's been saying it time and time again, and he is gonna do it. Now, to be honest, I'm not sure about now, although it has said that student loan forgiveness will be cut off from those that are supporting whatever Donald Trump says is a threat to national security or something along those lines. I think there has to be some kind of way, there has to be some kind of solution, not for the student loan forgiveness, but a way to prove that whoever is doing whatever the government's saying is going against national security has some kind of proof or evidence to prove that what they're doing is genuinely against national security or a threat to national security. Now, not to say I'm defending this proposal or going against it either. There has to be a way to prove that whatever university or the students at said university, what it is that they are doing, if there is proof that they are doing something that is of national security threat, then yeah, then if there's enough proof to do what needs to be done, then do it. But if there isn't any proof that's hardened or any proof that's ironclad, that literally says it right on the tin, then well, it's just going to be countless arguments over and over again. Well, people say they should, people say they shouldn't. It's just difficult to come to a decision if there isn't hardline proof that what people are doing is a threat to anything. Not to say those people should be gone after, or get rid of any of their support. But if anyone is going to say, oh, what this person is doing is very wrong, very naughty, those people are, then surely there will be evidence and proof that backs that up. If not, well, there's not much you can do about it. There isn't much that anything can be done. If there isn't anything visible or anything that is clear as day to prove that the actions that were necessary are justified for the situation that these people are in. Supreme Court lets Mississippi social media age verification law stand. For now. The Supreme Court declined to issue an emergency ruling to block Mississippi's social media age verification law, letting it remain in effect for now. The law requires parental consent for minors to create accounts. Companies face fines for non-compliance. Tech group NetChoice, representing companies like YouTube and Meta, argues the law violates the First Amendment. The law, passed in 2024, is part of a broader push by states to limit minors' access to social media. It stems from House Bill 1126, enacted after a Mississippi teenager was unalived by suicide following a sextortion scheme on Instagram. Under the law, all users must verify their age before creating or using a social media account, and parents must give permission before their children can do so. The responsibility then falls on tech companies to confirm users' ages and shield minors from harmful or inappropriate content. The more I hear about this, the more I actually agree with having these limitations, and the more I agree that young children shouldn't have access to social media. Whilst it does go against First Amendment rights, but here's a question I have. But you know what? That's a good point. The First Amendment prohibitions of prohibits any laws limiting freedom with respect to religion, expression, peaceful assembly, or the rights of citizens to petition the government. However, on the other hand, there is this one incident I've heard so much that not many people are talking about enough. And in fact, this situation with Roblox, it's so bad. Louisiana is making a lawsuit against. Unless surely they have to sue Roblox or the United States for something, or suing against someone for protection for children. U.S. representative is speaking out on the situation. Qatar literally banned Roblox because of child safety. Win for Qatar. The UK would also likely ban it, although it's not surprising given the fact that they've passed the Online Safety Act, so how convenient that is, am I right? However, yeah, honestly, although I do have concerns about how people access online content, regardless of what age anyone is. However, I do believe there has to be some safety features. There has to be some guardrails, and there will have to be functions that prevents very young users of very young ages from even looking at such content that they're not supposed to see, and will potentially scar them for the rest of their lives potentially. They can recover, but however, it's not enough. I don't think people are doing enough to defend children from the harmful reality that is the internet. And whilst there are advocacy groups asking for policies, legislations, or action to be taken to protect the children from harmful content, when are the companies in question actually going to do that? And what is the reason they are doing that now? Because there's always a reason for someone to do something, and they won't actually do something instantly unless there is enough pressure from either the public or from particular events that would likely make the images of those companies look bad. If any of those things are the case, that's when they will do it. There's no doubt about that. That is the episode.